Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as it is going to remain fairly unsettled throughout the next 5 days, but nowhere near as heavy in terms of precipitation and widespread nature as we have seen over the past 24 hours. But still going to see precipitation around this week, but we are going to see warmer air masses mixing in, which means when we see some sunshine and some breaks in the cloud, we could see the temperatures get into the low 20s, something we haven't seen in a couple of weeks. But of course, on the flip side of that, with warmer air masses, it means the showers and areas of convection could be more intense, meaning there is even the risk of some thunderstorms appearing this week, and we are seeing that in the past few UKV runs, which definitely are showing some really quite intense precipitation in places, especially in the south and the west over the next few days. It is going to depend on very small factors, so there could be some big shifts in the next day or two, but we'll try and pinpoint the details today. But I will continue to highlight there is massive uncertainty as ever when we've got some very small changes making huge differences at the surface. Longer term prospects, the actual uncertainty has increased today, unfortunately. Normally, as we get nearer to the time, the certainty should increase, but it's gone the opposite way, where the certainty has decreased, and we are seeing a lot more scatter, especially from the ensembles, for around a week's time, with both milder, colder, drier and wetter solutions showing up. The GFS showing something a bit cooler, a bit wetter, with lots of low pressure around. The other ones got higher pressure, more of top of us. This is the GM, the ECMWF, with something warmer. Nothing sort of heat wave level, but definitely warmer, average to above average conditions. So unfortunately, not really got a massive consensus on the longer range, but we'll try and do our best at seeing what the most likely scenario is. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see the huge area of rain that's still in some eastern areas, slowly clearing away. In the past 24 hours, it's given a lot of heavy rain from the southeast all the way up to the northeast, and for parts of eastern Scotland there, still got another couple of hours of rain. You can see this huge arc is going all the way into Scandinavia. It's because we had this cut-off low, which is now sat out in the North Sea, developing across France, slowly moving northwards, and just essentially completely bringing its weather front over the eastern half of the British Isles. You can still see, though, unfortunately, down towards the southeast, we still have some lingering precipitation. I was expected to see some showers, some light areas of rain, but we still actually got some pretty heavy rain lingering here. Unfortunately, this should hopefully clear in the coming hours. But yeah, it's been really miserable here. Further westwards, not as bad, a few showers. And you can see it's really held those temperatures down. You can see within the cut-off low, we've actually got some warmer air. This is the air that's going to be heading our way towards the middle of the week, this warmer air mass. But on the western flank, we've still got colder air embedded within it, and you can see these blues indicating temperatures in the high single digits for many in the east throughout today. And I'm recording this during the peak hours of the afternoon, around 2 p.m. So yeah, really, really chilly today, all due to the fact we've still got some cold air at the surface, and we've got that heavy rain and thick cloud. If you do put on the past 24-hour precipitation, you can see all of that heavy rain down the east coast, especially towards the London area and up towards Yorkshire as well, into the East Midlands, where we have seen some really intense banding of precipitation. The whole area's seen a few tens of millimetres, but these specific areas have seen 30 to 40 millimetres because we did see some real intense rainfall rates. We did highlight that in the video yesterday, but it's a little bit more widespread, a little bit more intense than initially anticipated. Hopefully, though, next few days we should see less in terms of this widespread nature, but I can't rule out the intensities returning, simply because there is the risk, as I said, of some thunderstorms. Now, if I do go over to the latest UKV and start on the precipitation over the next 5 days, you can see that rain slowly clearing to the northeast, but it is lingering through this afternoon, and quite a bit more than anticipated. You can see here really only clipping the far northeast of England and into eastern Scotland, with very little rainfall elsewhere, but we're actually seeing it a little bit lagged here. We did see that a little bit last night looking at the UKV. So it has looked like the UKV has struggled with this system a little bit, not massively, but for example, if this was snow, which is plausible if this system occurred in the winter, we'd be looking at a 5 to 10 centimetre difference, which is the difference between an amber and a red warning, for example, at these levels. So yeah, not particularly great performance on the UKV. Luckily though, we have had a drier few days. This hasn't caused any significant flooding, but if we were in the back of a very wet spell, of course, it has been very wet the past few weeks and months, but not too bad the last week or so, which has allowed water levels to subside. But if this was off the back of a few other low pressure systems, then we could have seen some real issues because these intensities were higher than initially forecasted. But throughout the rest of today into tomorrow, it should turn drier. There is some rain approaching from the west, but it should be showery in nature. It is heavy and potentially persistent across the Private Island, but as it clears eastwards, it does become a bit more showery, as I said. And through Monday afternoon, most areas will see a little bit of rain, but it does slowly peter out. Now, as we head into Tuesday, you see the wind direction shifts. We start to see more of an easterly, and this is the warmer air mass starting to waft in from northern Europe. You can see further westwards, though, we've still got low pressure, and where it collides with that warmer air, could start to see some of those heavy showers, some convection taking off, even the risk of a few thunderstorms. Watch out for these orange and red colours. That's where we're seeing the intense rainfall rates and potentially thunderstorms occurring. Now, as we head into Tuesday afternoon, you can still see the precipitation mainly in the west, but there could be some breakouts further eastwards. Looks like a bit of a cluster of thunderstorms there for East Anglia in the southeast. Need to keep a close eye on that. As we head into the 1st of May, it looks like a reasonably dry start. Pretty decent through the afternoon, but unfortunately temperatures don't look as high as they did yesterday, and that's because we have thicker cloud around. And then look through the evening into the overnight, look at that big area of thunderstorms moving up from northern France. Don't look ridiculously intense, no darker reds appearing there, but regardless, still some very heavy rain, and we'd likely see some embedded thunderstorms. Perhaps it's one of these systems where we see thunderstorms occurring in France. They lose their intensity over the channel as they head towards the UK. Definitely a risk of that, but regardless, still very heavy rainfall rates, likely to see a few tens of millimetres again with this overnight into Thursday. As we clear into Thursday, it's actually a drier day, and those thunderstorms and areas of rain actually peter out into nothing through Thursday afternoon, and this is likely where we will see those temperatures into the low 20s when we finally see some sunshine breaking through. Now, it's plausible to see 20 degrees on Wednesday as well, maybe even Tuesday, but it is all dependent on the sunshine amounts, which, as we've seen, not looking there, not looking particularly sunny for Tuesday and Wednesday from this latest UKV run. Now, the reason for this is because if we look at the upper air temperatures, you can see it's chilly at the moment, warm out in the North Sea, that's fueling the precipitation. And you can see over the coming hours, slowly that chilly air does generally dissipate away, and then actually gets pushed away through Monday into Tuesday with some warmer air arriving from the east, and it fully pushes in through Wednesday into Thursday, 10 to 12 degrees at 850 HPA. We'd be looking at high 20s potentially in the middle of the summer. Here though, still late autumn, we are looking probably at low 20s at best. And you can see it really dominates through much of Thursday and likely into Friday. The only caveat is areas of low pressure, troughs building in, which could give us some thunderstorms. And if you look at the max temperatures, you can see that today really quite miserable in the east. Temperature struggling around that 7 to 10 degree mark. Further westwards, could see low teens. But yeah, another pretty chilly day, late winter's day, or even midwinter's day for some, as we have got that heavy rain keeping those temperatures down. Into tomorrow, it should be a bit of improvement, maybe 15, 16 degrees, or even slightly higher in places where we see some dry conditions. And the same can be said into Tuesday, where we see dry conditions. Look at that, 18, 19 degrees. But further westwards, 8 or 9, where we see heavy rain. So you can see what I mean by the temperatures are going to be highly varied depending on cloud and precipitation amounts. And that's why subtle shifts in the area and the positioning of troughs and areas of rain could make a huge difference to the surface temperatures. And that's why I keep saying that things can change very, very quickly here. Into Wednesday, we were seeing widely 20 degrees yesterday, but look at this, only 13 or 14 for some across the south, and that is because of that rain and cloud lingering. So yeah, not quite as warm on Wednesday, but you can see into Thursday, once those thunderstorms clear, look at that, widely 20 to 23 degrees across many parts of England and Wales, even up towards Scotland, potentially could get to 20 degrees. But look at the southwest of England, 9 or 10. And that, as I said, is all due to the fact of those lingering thunderstorms that are slowly clearing. Again, it's not really the thunderstorms, it's just the cloud and rain in general, cooling those temperatures down and keeping the air very, very cool. So, yeah, it could change very quickly. Those thunderstorms are a bit delayed, moves further northwards, then it might only be 15 degrees through Thursday. So we'll have to keep a very close eye on this, keep reviewing this every day. So don't take these individual charts as gospel at this stage. Just that it is looking likely we see 20 degrees this week, but we can't say exactly where, can't say exactly which days. We can just say where is most likely. Now, if you look at the longer range, you'll be able to see that there is huge variation in what we could be seeing as we head into early May. Yeah, and you can see low pressure sitting out to our southwest over the next couple of days, and that's going to give the rain in the west. But eventually the easterly winds win out. But the GFS here never really pushes the low pressure away and never fully builds in that high pressure to our north, which does mean even though it does turn warmer for a time this week, it actually stays unsettled, and these lows move back in and could give some torrential rain there with this little pesky channel low developing through the weekend. Beyond that, it remains fairly unsettled, and we could see a high pressure system build in for a time here, but eventually we see another low diving to our south, and we'll have to keep a close eye on that. Regardless, though, high pressure eventually builds in, and it actually looks fairly pleasant in the last few days of this run, with some generally warmer upper air temperatures. So you can see it stays unsettled probably for the next sort of 8 or 9 days, and then beyond that, day 10 and beyond, it eventually goes drier and goes warmer. Not an insanely warm air mass, an insanely warm wind direction, which means maybe 20 degrees will be sort of the best conditions we see, but still better than what we've had recently. Now, the GEM and the ECMWF are fairly similar in the longer term, but they get there quite a bit quicker. And you can see low pressure spiraling around at the moment, still sitting to our southwest through Tuesday to Wednesday, but the high pressure builds in towards day 10. And look at this, high pressure is firmly in control. Yes, low pressure is trying to ride over the high towards that day 10 period and could give some rain for Scotland, but for the southwards, it would actually be really quite pleasant. Look at the precipitation here. You can see Scotland, unfortunately, could see some rain. It's pretty typical with these sort of patterns to see that rain there. But further southwards, look at that, widely mid to high teens. Again, not ridiculously warm yet, as the air mass is really just embedding itself. But give it another few days, we could be again looking at widely towards that 20 degree range, a good 3, 4, 5 days earlier than the GFS does it. So interesting indeed. They both kind of get to the same place at the end of the run, but GFS keeps the lows spiraling around for an extra few days, keeping unsettled, thundery conditions for a longer period of time. Now, if you finally compare to the ECMWF, again, low pressure spiraling around, high pressure eventually builds in towards the latter part of this week and into the next weekend. Look at that, high pressure fully in control. This is where the GFS has that low, that channel low developing, giving widespread torrential rain. The ECMWF doesn't have any rainfall really in sight. You could see maybe a few pesky showers, but generally bone dry at day 7. Again, showing the huge contrast we're seeing between runs, even by this weekend, or by next weekend, sorry, just from the simple fact that they are forecasting the high pressure to be very strong in the ECMWF, weaker on the GFS, allowing low pressure to sit in the south. This would also aid very warm temperatures, and you can see all the way to day 10, we are seeing high pressure in control. Yes, again, another low trying to ride over this high, which could allow chillier air masses to push in, but for most, it remains fairly warm and fairly dry. Look at that, by next Tuesday, widely looking at mid to high teens, maybe even low 20s. Again, more of a northwest-southeast split in those temperatures, but that is expected this time of year with those cold air masses in the jet stream still relatively strong to our north. It is slowly shifting northwards, but it's not too unusual for early May to be seeing low pressure and cooler conditions trying to push in for northwest Scotland. It has been unusual, though, for these cold conditions to be all the way down to the southeast, only seeing 7 or 8 degrees. Now, if you finish by looking at the ensembles, you can see why there is massive uncertainty. Chilly the next day, but then we go above average into this week, and potentially significantly above average from some runs. But even now, we're seeing some huge spread, even in 6-7 days' time. Some runs average to slightly below average, majority above average, but still quite a lot of spread. Is it going to be 6-7 degrees above average, or only 1 or 2? Beyond that, again, the spread stays fairly large and even increases towards the latter part of the run, which is expected, but it's really this sort of 5 to 10 day range where I wouldn't expect to see this much scatter. It's, as I said, it's not huge in terms of the actual differences, but it's huge scatter from around 10 degrees to maybe down to -1 or -2. So definitely warmer end, but not as. But it's the fact that the uncertainty has increased. It was more certain yesterday and the previous days. Precipitation looks pretty high the next few days, and that is all due to the fact of those thunderstorms potentially arriving through Wednesday and Thursday. Longer term does turn dry, so positive signals for higher pressure building in. But what is the air mass going to be? That's going to dictate whether it's a 15, 16 degrees, still a little bit chilly, high pressure, or low 20s, something much warmer and resemblant of early summer. If you look at those 2 meter temperatures, you can definitely see it is on the upwards trend, widely into the mid to high teens. Not expecting anything too cool in the next couple of weeks. Yes, there is the risk with showers and thunderstorms, maybe even this week, of holding those temperatures down significantly, but I'm not expecting anything particularly cold, at least compared to what we've had recently. And finally, if we finish on the ECMWF ensembles, broadly very similar. But look at that, around the 5 to 10 day time frame, much more certainty, with those upper air temperatures being a good 5 or 6 degrees above average. That's a positive. Looks like the GFS is continuing a lot of scatter, whereas the ECMWF is much more concise in its opinion that it is going to be warm, maybe even very warm, the next week or so. Long term though, still lots of spread and a similar signal in terms of precipitation decreasing but not going to zero. 2 meter temperatures finally, look at that, later this week, widely into the high teens, maybe even into the low 20s come Thursday through to Sunday. But as I said, it will all depend on those precipitation amounts. So you see, it's not going to be turning into anything heat wave wise, it's not going to be turning into anything absolutely stunning, but definitely looks like things are on the up, heading back to what we should expect for this time of year, and potentially even seeing some early summer hints in the next week or two. Temperatures could be fairly decent at times, but I'm not expecting anything completely bone dry or anything too consistent. Does look like there is going to be lots of up and down, lots of chopping and changing in not only the next few days, but the next couple of weeks. But definitely, as I said, an improvement on what we've had recently. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.